Yeah, he was from Newmarket.
Last night?
Last night at the game, yeah.
What happened?
Don't know, just that he had a medical emergency.
His name was Mooney.
Was that the name?
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
Yeah,
I just had like in the
yeah. It's too bad.
52 years old.
Yeah,
Ooh.
young.
Wow. Good. All right, so welcome everyone to the Monday, September 18th Capital Improvement Committee meeting. We'll start as usual with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have four departments or four requests that we just last week, as we went through like our long meeting, had requests for additional information on DPW sidewalks, DPW vehicles, fire vehicles, and library. Since you have the longest list, Rick, do you want to start with you? So, fire vehicles, I think we have a very specific question on. Probably the town manager is the one that even asked us more. We had been told last year that they were going to, since they're leasing it, they were going to move that into the operational budget as opposed to a capital reserve budget. Do you have any insight into that?
Last year wasn't recommended, I believe, but it got put in.
To the capital reserve?
Yes.
So I think when Steve spoke with the budget committee about this, he said that this year they were going to switch it back to, when the town manager spoke to the budget committee, he said they were going to move it to the operational budget.
The only thing I'm aware of that's being moved to the operational budget is the paving for roadways.
Okay.
The paving or the paving vehicles?
I'm sorry?
Paving or the paving vehicles?
Paving roadways.
Road,
paving.
okay.
So we currently had it in the budget and in the CIP, but every year we just keep taking that out. So we're just moving it as an operational thing.
Okay.
That's the only thing I'm aware of that's being moved to the operation budget. I'm not aware that we're doing something different with the
fire vehicle.
with the fire CIP monies.
Okay. If we vote that down, it's not because we don't want the fire vehicles.
No, I mean, last year, I don't think it was recommended, but it ended up.
It ended up in the budget.
I don't know how it got there, but it went.
So anything that comes out of this committee is just a recommendation and all.
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened with that.
All right, so sidewalks and DPW vehicles, which would you like to start with?
So I had asked Bart to send you that.
Sidewalk information?
That sidewalk information, so that's pretty much based off of that. And that's gonna complete some, basically some loops that we don't have continuity or connections right now. Like, for instance, Grant Road, there's a little section on South Main from the elementary school up to Grant Road.
Yeah.
Back up to Durrell, to Briellia, finishing Bennett Way, some stuff down here in the Twin Rivers area where there's no sidewalks. But there's estimates there and pretty good details on that.
Questions on the, I know we received an email.
No, I actually thought the information was really helpful. That was really fantastic, and it makes it so much clearer than just the.
Yeah,
just
I
the numbers
apologize.
and
There's really not a place to attach that to this, so
Yeah, we're
probably
working
should
on
have
it.
just sent it separately. But
Yeah.
sorry for not.
No, that's
providing
that's
that.
perfectly good. I'm glad that there's such a good plan in place.
Is there, so Rick, as I went through that, I know that, was it Underwood who did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they said like they know that it's not going to all happen like right now or in 1 year and
Correct.
everything. Like, is there a plan as to like how many sidewalks per year you want to get done?
Well, we would like to tackle, for instance, right now, if we tear up a road,
Yeah.
like in that plan, New Road was called out with Young
Yeah, I
Lane.
saw New Road was
We
called.
did that when we did all that work last year.
So that's already done.
So so that one is done. It was just completed finally this summer. So that one for New Road is completely done, which is in that plan. But we're just looking to try to start somewhere and kind of have a so much every year type of thing, you know,
Yeah.
until we can maybe get it done. Because really, what we looked at in that plan kind of would finish up the town to connect things.
Yeah,
You know, there's not really other areas we would be looking to maybe expand. Maybe with future development, but not,
Right.
you know.
so, and I apologize, I'm trying to find, Art's not here, so I don't have it, we don't have the latest packet. I'm trying to find the exact, how much money was going in each
We
year?
were looking to put 125 aside every year.
Every year?
Every year.
Which would cover varying projects, because they're all, you know, different size projects.
Yeah, they're all different. Some of them would be phases. You would do a portion, and then maybe
Right.
the following year finish that specific road. You
So
would
where's
be
the
look-
I'm
I'm sorry?
Where's the next one gonna be?
Well, it would depend on funding. You know what I mean? The
So-
one that everybody is really, really excited about and talking about is to finish South Main by the school and up Grant Road
Yeah.
to connect
Yeah.
to the Durrell and Briellia Circle. There's currently a sidewalk in Briellia, but there's no sidewalk to leave there to get to the school or back to South Main or town.
It's a really weird gap.
Yeah, yeah, so that would be my recommendation for the next place, whether it's phased, where you do South Main and then the next year do Grant. And those estimates are all with us doing the work, not hiring contractors,
Got it.
you know? So it's, if we were to put that out to a company, it would be double or triple that number, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Are there any more demand sets because you're sidewalking, for lack of, I don't know what the right verb is for that, right? But now, will you be responsible for maintaining it, meaning during snow and removal and all of that?
correct.
You would,
correct.
okay. And you don't need anything else to take care of these additions?
No, we currently have 2 machines to do that, and we wouldn't require like a third to do all of these extra sidewalks.
Other questions about sidewalks?
I'm good.
Very much appreciate trying to align it to when roads are being pulled up anyway. Vehicles.
So vehicles.
So I think we had questions just to like focus in, like, it seemed like there were a couple vehicles that were being financed in full, through the full
Yeah,
cost
so,
this single year.
so where we're kind of at with this, this is, the bigger items, the bigger ticket vehicles, we're looking to lease purchase and spread it out, so we're not trying to find all these funds at once. Unfortunately, we're kind of in a place where we really haven't been putting into the CIP what we need to for the entire fleet, per se,
Yeah.
for several years now. So we have some lease payments due, and we also have some vehicles up for replacement, but we've got to keep making the lease payments for the ones we have. So it's kind of scheduled to like get through some lease payments, and when something goes away, then you buy the next thing. So it's kind of hard to put a real schedule on the next vehicle, because the costs for these vehicles, with all the new tier increases, like tier 4 or 5's coming out next, the price increase is just phenomenal from what it was, and it only takes like a couple of years, and you're talking another 60,000. It's just crazy. But they're all things that we need for snow removal and projects and taking care of winter maintenance. But there's just, the funding just isn't really in place for what we have in the fleet. It's something I think that needs to be talked about, because we can't just keep putting 75 in every year, and eventually we're gonna not be able to purchase something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So.
We're kind of there now. That's why you'll see these vehicles, you're like, how come this vehicle's not in here? Because I can't afford to pay for it, so I can't get it,
So,
you know?
can I ask a question about the sheet?
Yep,
So there are 3 vehicles that have annual numbers against it. Those are leases, correct?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
then-
The smaller vehicles that are like a pickup,
Yeah.
like the one you see, that would be just an outright purchase. That wouldn't be a lease. But these ones that are a couple $100,000, Those are the ones we've been leasing, trying to do either a 5 or 7. I don't think we've gone higher than a 7-year on them.
So,
But, so,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So wouldn't it though, just to be able to show the gap in funding, wouldn't it be helpful to have, annual sums that we should be putting aside to be replacing vehicles? Or at least to save ahead for
I
lease payments?
agree, but what's listed here, I agree with what you're saying. I wanted to make sure, like, what's here, that needs to be paid. Like, there's no saying, oh, let's not do the 171, let's just do 100. We won't be able to make a payment. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if I put in all those vehicles that I really can't afford to buy yet, my concern was what really has to be funded doesn't get funded.
I see.
So I was just trying to show, this is like an absolute minimum
So,
right here.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Here is a reason why to put leases in the operational budget.
Yeah.
Because the lease has to be paid, right? Like, when you put it in the capital reserve, then it's like, okay, does it get told? Like, whereas like the leases, to me, those are obligations we are required.
Yeah,
Like,
or you turn the vehicle in.
yeah.
You know
like,
what I'm saying?
Right.
How many of these are leases? Like, if I look at
So-
the John Deere loader, right? Your loader is
We,
250K.
we haven't bought a
We
new
own
one.
it.
We
but
own
We're
it.
gonna start leasing.
We're gonna, the next one we go to buy will require it to be a lease purchase because of the amount, which would be out in '27.
So I wonder if like there's a way, like, for things that are gonna be leases,
I see.
you start filling out for those out years, just so like we get a visual. It's not gonna help us this year, but like so the town knows, like, hey,
Yeah,
in like 5 years, there's gonna be a lot of lease payments on DPW vehicles coming
yeah.
out.
Like, that stuff's not gonna keep forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the only reason I didn't add them in is I was afraid what we have to pay today. Like, this stuff that's here right now, we have to make those payments. Those are
Right.
leases,
Well, except for the
except for the pickup.
purchases. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But the 2 plow trucks, the international plow trucks and the trackless, we have to make those payments.
So
I see, so those are leases.
2, 3, 4. The F-450. Are you
Yep.
gonna lease that too or no?
No, it wouldn't be that crazy a number.
So when I look at these, so assuming $100,000 is the threshold.
Yes, that's kind of my philosophy with it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of your 20 vehicles are purchases, and the rest are all leases.
The way we're projecting to try to, or what we've been looking at trying to do to not have to come up with hundreds and hundreds of thousands every year.
So Bart, we had talked about the fire lease, and there's no clarification from the town manager that it was gonna, at least to the fire chief, that it was gonna move over to
Leasing?
the operational budget.
Okay.
But like,
Excuse me.
I think that like the mixture of leases and purchases in the DPW budget makes this even more confusing.
Yeah, it
Because,
is confusing.
yeah, because there's some that are like, we gotta make these lease payments, right? Like,
Right.
which is like, it's an annual lease payment. There's others where he could be putting a little bit of money aside every year to pay for an F-150, right? Like, but he's not able to do that. Correct me, like, because like, he needs to make sure that that one budget line is,
That's my feeling.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my,
So it seems like maybe it's 2 separate, like if we were to transition maybe, one's lease payments, and then one's saving capital reserve funds for the purchasing.
for these other smaller
Yeah,
vehicles.
If we could just move the lease payments to the operational budget,
Right.
it would make this so much cleaner. I mean, I don't know what, like,
No, I totally
No, I
agree.
think it makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Yep. Because like you said, that's an ongoing obligation that we're contractually held to. So that can't be something that the town can say, oh, nope, but can't have that money.
it like almost just creates an additional administrative burden of having to
Yeah.
come to the council and ask for money.
And
that
I
we
have
know
to
we're
do
gonna
that
have
every
to
year
pay.
because with a lease, you can't tie the hands to future councils. So every single year, I have to go in and say, hey, the lease payment's due, can we have the money?
And the council could like,
And
one day be like,
It's
"No."
almost like, I mean, they could say no, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
I think
Their hands are tied. They have to pay it, no
Well,
matter
they
what.
don't have to. They
Yeah,
could
they
just
have
They
to.
could, they could vote and say, no, we're not.
And you get rid of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gets repossessed.
And then they'll
And
come
take the
take the,
repercussions, I suppose.
you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
exactly. I think
But
that's what
every
he's
year
saying.
you have to go ask them to bless that payment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a formality, in my opinion,
It's just
but
Unless it got
Yeah.
moved to the operating budget, in which case, when you think about, like, when you think like on the warrant, it always says, like, here is the budget, here is what it would be if it does not get approved, and it always includes obligations, which like contractual obligations, which the lease would
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
So it would be in the default budget, not just the operating budget. There's almost no reason, I just don't, like, there must be a reason, but I just don't understand why we would make this both like, put the department at like some sort of risk of like a council could get elected that's all of a sudden like, nope, and all of a sudden gotta turn vehicles in, and like create that additional administrative step when we know we don't need it.
Nate's questions are you transitioning to all leases eventually? you think?
well, we've been doing that with these big ticket items because these vehicles have gone up
Yeah.
so quickly in the last 5 years. They've, you know, 5 years ago, a dump truck was 120, now they're almost 200.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's just insane.
It's only gonna get worse.
So I have one question. So I think that makes a lot of sense to go to leases. Wouldn't it though also make sense to put money aside to reduce the lease obligation? So every year, some money for whichever vehicle you're going to be leasing to reduce the lease obligations on an ongoing basis. So we may not be able to put aside 200,000, but maybe 80, right? So that there is a little bit of a buffer there, rather than just shifting everything over to and then just hoping that the town will fund it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in a place where we're at right now, but I think there's a lot of conversations to be had.
Yeah.
To kind of come up with a plan.
A way
you
to
know.
do it.
And I feel like for the other vehicles, right? So like I'm just gonna go to line one, your 350 with the plow. We know in 26, you're gonna have to replace that. So probably next year, you have to have an outflow for that. I feel like if the useful life of that is 9 years, what this is like suggesting, putting a little bit away every year for
Right.
each of those vehicles you're gonna have to replace, so that when we get there, you're like, it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like
Which is
that
the
one-
purpose
that
of a
one-
capital reserve fund. This is not on you, this is like on how
It
the,
seems
like,
like that
Yeah.
one's gonna be a lease. Is that $300,000?
no, I'm talking about the first one.
Oh,
The-
excuse me, yes.
Just a regular pickup
Oh,
of a
yeah.
plow.
Right.
And it's like $100,000 is the threshold.
Gotcha. Okay.
It just feels like for anything under 100, we know when the replacement years are. We should have a plan for like putting some away every year
Absolutely.
to get to the replacement year.
So maybe it's just good just to identify what are the ones that DPW knows that they're gonna go to lease. They're gonna if they're not already there, they're gonna transition there.
Yeah.
And then that's a conversation to be had later.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we look at what our assets we're gonna keep in town, what we're gonna replace, what are gonna be our physical assets, not lease. Is it lease to purchase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So theoretically, that becomes
An asset,
an asset.
appreciable asset.
But, at that point in time, are you gonna
And then it,
reevaluate where you're at and then maybe do like a trade-in, I don't know. I'm not sure. So, it seems like we got two tiers.
Yeah. And it feels
And
like,
then lease is gonna go into a tier. You're gonna be relegated to, I'm not saying relegated, but transition to a primary asset. Once the lease is done.
yes. But for the purpose of, so is that why it's in a capital improvement plan? Because it becomes an asset that we own? It still feels like an
Eventually,
obligation.
but it's theoretical.
Yeah.
A lot of things could probably happen at that point. I'm not sure what the contract says. You don't know. I haven't seen
you
that.
could have a line in here that puts aside money for to finish out leases and just have one line for it that covers all
Like
of those
leasing.
vehicles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the cleanest is moving it to the operating budget.
Yes, but it would be, second option.
Yeah. So, which would then allow Rick to build a plan for like, okay, with these 8 vehicles that we actually are gonna own, how do we save, how much money do I need to save a year to get to a
Right.
place that when they're coming due?
That's a
we can-
great idea. So it might be another column here saying when it becomes an asset, and then you're planning for that, like for upkeep and whatnot,
Yeah,
or
any
replacement.
maintenance on it, replacement.
Yeah, replacement.
And that still leaves us with having to vote on something tonight for an amount to go into this capital reserve fund.
Right. That needs to happen this evening.
So this is the minimum that you're looking for, because these are all, like, the vehicles have to be replaced, and the
Other than
leases are,
the 90,000 for those two pickups.
yeah.
Yeah, if you deduct the 90, that's the minimum, because it could be like, okay, you're just not buying the truck, but like, we've already parked one of these trucks, they will not inspect it. It's just sitting there, we can't run it, we're already down
So
the
Rick,
pickup.
what's the plan with the 211 that you have in the fund balance?
We just made a lease payment, just
Okay.
literally like
So
a
it's-
couple weeks ago.
So what is the actual balance now?
So
That's gonna be
Did you have a resolution a couple weeks ago?
yeah, just a couple weeks ago,
90,
literally
50,
What was it
145.
for?
two meetings ago, for the truck payments.
Okay, it was for 90. Yeah.
Forgive me though, I'm not sure if it's DPW or fire. I'm trying to think right now. It might have been for the fire truck.
Okay. It was for a pickup, you said?
No, it was either for the fire truck or,
Okay, for one
or
of these
the
large ticket
dump
items.
The
trucks.
dump truck with a plow lease, 7-year lease? No.
Yes,
Is that it?
yeah. Yeah, it would have been for the dump trucks. They were due back in August. So it was for the dump trucks. I don't think the fire truck payment's due until later in the year, December or something like that. So that number is a little different, Phil. It's,
Well, and also, like, I'm looking at this now. So
50.
your request is 171,
yes,
This year, yeah.
which the lease payments of that are 140, 141, which, and you're also trying to buy two F-150s.
two pickups.
Two pickups. You're gonna have to be using some of that 211. It's not, because it's not one for one. Some of that money.
That's
is going-
correct. There is
Okay.
some funds there.
That
Yep.
you're using some of the funds.
So
to
using
pay
some
for
of the
it.
funds to cover the, yep, exactly.
I mean, I feel like we have a couple options here. We can vote for the 171 request. We can vote for any amount. And send a note to the town manager, like, but we think that it should actually be less than that, because we think 140 of that should be going to operating budget. Or we vote for the amount minus the amount we think should be the operating budget, and be like, put this other 140 in the operating budget, because that's where it belongs. 'Cause it is-
I think we should vote for it the way it is, and with a note to put it into the operating budget myself.
Just a pickup.
But we would need to, like, make sure this communication is that, like, we strongly do not believe.
Yeah,
No,
this is,
for all
and this
lease-
is
for all
terribly
lease payments.
confusing.
Right.
Yeah, it makes it confusing, it adds administrative burden. He's
Yeah.
gotta go to the council asking for money that, like, it just feels very,
It's convoluted.
yeah, I just, like,
So until it transfer, the town has sole possession, the lease payment is ended. It should be operating budget.
it should go to the operating budget.
And then once those lease payments have ended, it transitions to capital reserve.
Because, like, ultimately, because
Yeah.
if it was in the
There's
operating budget, it's actually, if it was in the operating budget, that means it goes into the default budget. But because it's in capital reserve, it cannot go to the default budget, which means that if the capital reserve, for whatever reason, gets underfunded, or money gets, like, there's no, like, well, it's in there, it's a part of the obligation.
Right.
Right,
It
I think
just,
that makes sense.
it just screams risk.
yeah, it does. That's exactly what it is.
And this whole lease thing's relatively new. We've only been doing this for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
I think this is our second or third payment, second payment, I think.
So at the end of the lease, is there an amount left that, in order to purchase the vehicle,
No, it's all the interest is
It's-
figured
it's
in and
all-
everything. As soon as they get the last one,
you're done?
we're done.
Ah, okay.
But how would we off the rest of the town's vehicles, though?
Police vehicles, right now, operating budget.
Not a lease though, purchases, right?
Yeah, they're leases.
Are there leases?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's no more capital reserve. They
I know they're in our capital reserve, but I think that the reason they transition to operating budget is because they turn them over so quickly.
Every year they're
Yeah,
buying
yeah.
them. Every
They
year
had
they
to
buy a
buy
couple,
one, right?
one or two or something.
Water and sewer are capital reserve right now.
Purchases.
But, purchases, but I don't think they have any lease payments in there.
Yeah, the problem with my vehicles between the fire department and here, they're just so expensive,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay,
compared to what they were 5 or 6 years ago.
I think that's fair assessment, they're just so cost, prohibitive that.
If they're all
Like,
diesel
makes
stuff,
sense.
and every couple of years, there's a new tier, they call it a new tier for the
Yeah.
admissions and everything, and those updates are just like, it's 40 more grand. You know, the price increases are just,
I'm not anti-leasing, it's just that the mixing, the commingling of lease and purchase funds into one capital reserve fund is very
It
confusing.
sounds like we have a path right now. Like, at least we have a suggestion to the
Yeah.
town manager, saying, hey, look, you know, this is, we think, find this more clean, cleaner way of approaching it. And it doesn't really affect in a way, but this might be a better way to approach it.
Risk mitigation, I
Yeah,
cannot, like,
right.
that to me is like, there is this like small but present risk that a council could say no. True.
yeah, you get,
It just takes one weird election.
it just.
You've seen them around.
Yeah, I'm
It has
not,
happened before.
you know what I mean? I mean, you're spot on, like,
Yeah,
what do we do now?
okay. So we have the three, one fire department vote and then the 2 DPW votes.
You talk sidewalks yet?
We talked about
Okay, we good with that?
Good.
Second.
Yeah, I think we're good, like, there's a
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, there's a plan there, yeah, I
Plan
see
for
it,
it,
underwood
it's-
plan,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
What do we want to do with the fire department? Do we want to vote for it, or do we want to say,
I think
move it to the operating budget?
how you had talked about it is the right way to do it. Vote on it as it is with the
You mean the-
comment for it to go operational.
Well, we have
The public works or the,
either one, then Public Works and Fire Department, they're both lease payments going into the,
Those funds are gonna be used to make a lease payment.
yeah, we're adding them in the capital reserve, so we can take that exact amount out of the capital reserve to pay for a lease.
Right.
What was the amount in the fire department?
I think it's 51, Phil.
For the fire.
I believe it was 51.
51?
Is there a motion for the fire?
51. Got
First,
it.
do designations. We do that.
Oh,
Well, compulsory.
Compulsory, because we've signed leases.
Or leases, yeah.
There's another reason why with the DPW, it needs to be separate, because half of those are compulsory and half are necessary.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's something to consider there too.
And the fire one's a lease payment, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so that'll be, to me, compulsory.
yeah.
Yep.
So I'll
Anything leased should be classified. as
accept a motion for $51,000 to be added to the fire capital reserve with the designation of compulsory.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
With a note to the town manager.
Yeah, the DPW and fire are gonna have the same note,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's even clearer with DPW though. I'll accept a motion for $125,000, oh, sorry, yeah,
No,
that was to the
171?
sidewalk capital reserve.
oh, 125.
Based on the current, what we got, the clarifications on the codes, that would be desirable, correct?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, the way I read necessary was like,
Well,
Like-
it depends on I guess, your outlook, are they're necessary, your sidewalks.
sidewalks are absolutely necessary. I'm just going by the clarification of the
Clarification that we
codes that were
got.
sent out this
Sure.
week. I think if we voted on
Yeah.
this last week, I would have said necessary, but the way that the codes were
think
clarified,
it's
it feels
desirable.
different.
Beneficial to the community, but is not considered necessary, compulsory, or urgent, or deferrable.
Read necessary. What is the necessary?
If the
And
project is.
necessary is needed to maintain existing standards or levels of service.
So there's new sidewalks that are not the existing standards of levels of service.
Right.
The addition
a
of
dirt
new
path.
sidewalks makes it, to me, right? Like if he was saying, look, these sidewalks that we already have, people expect sidewalks here are going away, that is necessary.
I
And
guess
the
the
other
only
thing-
question I would have around that is, if you have actual complete loops, does it make it easier to maintain the sidewalks, or clear them of snow in the winter, for example?
Yeah, they're already going there, and the other thing is the school with the buses, once those are there, they don't have to provide a bus for those kids. If they're so
Because it's walking
close,
distance.
they
yeah.
can just say you walk, there's a sidewalk.
But
you can
because
walk.
there's no sidewalk.
Because there's no sidewalk,
Yeah.
now they have to provide a bus, and it could be right across the street
Yeah.
from the elementary
So
school.
is that considered a statute, law, or regulation?
No.
No.
I would tend to well, I guess it depends on the sidewalk actually, but I would say necessary in order to maintain existing standards or levels of service.
But could we also say something to the effect that if we're not paying for the bus, to stop there, the request that you're asking for funding is kind of offset by that? I mean, it's hard to give, to do that as a, all right,
Is the school district paying for the bus or the town?
Schools.
I mean, that's the people.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just,
I'm just trying to think of a way to make it so it was necessary as opposed to desirable.
I'm fine to vote for it necessary only at this, not only, but mainly in this point, because if this was last week, before we had those definitions, I would have been supporting necessary for this, and I think we should be consistent between last week and this week, so.
Yeah.
For consistency's sake.
Good point, yep, good point.
All right, so $125,000 with a code of necessary.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 3-0. And finally, I'll accept a motion for $171,000 into the Public Works Vehicle Replacement Program with a designation of, now here's,
This is the tricky one.
this is a tricky one, because 40,000 of that is necessary or desirable, and the other is compulsory.
well, I guess you take which one's more.
Yeah, would agree.
So actually, you're paying more for the compulsory.
And you're both gonna vote for this, right?
Well, we could split it, couldn't we?
I guess we could have two motions.
We could have two motions, one for 90,000 and one for
Well, 140,000.
140,000.
Okay.
140,000.
Does the 245, it's 141, you're right, 141,000. The 225.5s and the 245s?
For the compulsory?
Yeah,
No, the 45 is not compulsory, right?
oh, you're right.
There's
Sorry, I'm doing the math wrong.
245s, so 90 of,
90 is
the
not
90 is,
Got it, sorry, that's my bad, I was doing the math wrong.
optional in quotes.
yeah.
All right,
So it would
I think
be
that's a good way to approach it.
Okay, so
two votes.
Yeah.
2 votes, okay.
90,000,
So the 90 is necessary to replace the current ones,
Yeah.
and 25, 51, and 30, 81 is compulsory.
And that one comes with a note.
Yeah. I'll set the motion for $81,000 to be entered into the Public Works Vehicle Replacement Program with a designation of compulsory.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. 3-0, with a strongly worded letter to the town manager. I'll accept the motion for $90,000 to be entered to the Public Works Vehicle Replacement Program with the designation of necessary.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved, 3-0. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Congratulations on the 2. Is that 3 now?
$6 for the first one, so
How much for the first?
I only got 30%.
You should retire and start doing fishing tours. You make more money.
Jumps, 3 fish, it's not bad.
Thanks again, Rick.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Library. Welcome. So, can we move like the mic there?
No, I can do this.
Are you sure?
I'm mobile, just slow. Hi, I'm Mary Mahoney. I'm the chair of the trustees, and with me is Joan DiOrio, who is the treasurer of the trustees, and Candace Cousins, who is our new director. I'm sorry we weren't here representing the library last week, but I did watch it on TV.
Sure, it's riveting. You were one of the people.
Riveting. Yeah, I was probably the only one, and I didn't watch it live.
Do you want to cheer?
No, I'm all
You
right,
sure?
thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, I really am. I know some of the questions you were asking is, what's the status of our capital improvement money and the trust funds? They're two separate funds altogether. One is comes from taxpayers. The rest comes from gifts. The reason we're looking for more money in the capital fund is we know we have major projects that are going to come up. We would like to do a feasibility study with an architect to see what can be done with unused spaces in the library. We know we have lots of unused spaces and we'd like to utilize them. We also, our other major project is the roof. The east side of the roof will be due, I think about 5 years ago, they said the roof would last 10 years. And that's now 5 years. And Candace told me that we have a leak today with all the rain. So I would rather do that sooner than later. So those are the two things. The money that's in the CIP, I would like to do the feasibility study and use also that money, if necessary, for any recommendations for renovations or utilizing space. One area that we're considering is downstairs in the basement. We used to have book sales down there. We would like to use that to either expand stack space, perhaps another meeting room. But we won't know that until we get an architect. Now, why has it taken us so long? We've had 3 directors in the past 4 years, and every director comes in with a new set of ideas and a new set of plans. So now we just want to get a professional in and tell us what is possible. Let me see. Why didn't we spend money last year? We did. We spent money to heat the ramp so it doesn't ice up, the handicap ramp so it doesn't ice up in the winter. And we also spent money on the push button, the handicap push door. So those are the 2 things that we've done in the past year. Oh, and roof work, yes, we did do that too.
Questions?
Yes. Question, is there, we have CIP funds,
Yeah.
Trust funds. Is that specific purpose of its donations? Is there stipulations for
Uh,
those?
No, there isn't, not that we know of. Joan probably can answer that better
Okay.
than we can. We know we don't want to use that for operational costs and for maintenance of the building. If we were going to use them, we'd like to use them to enhancement, because I think that's what they were proposed to do. Certainly, if we were going to do a renovation, we would use some of those trust funds. We don't want to deplete them, but we would use some of those trust funds.
Thank you.
Yeah. Candace probably could answer any nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
So unless you have questions.
So is the 11K, you're suggesting 11K be
Yes.
put in
Yes.
for the feasibility study? And we know that there's
Roof
challenges
work.
coming down.
Actually, we were going to use that for a feasibility study when we put that in, but we've also been looking at the prices for an architect to come in and really do a good job, and it's going to be a lot more than 11,000. So we have quite a bit of, well, I shouldn't say for sure it's a lot more. We've been surveying libraries. The Lee Library had one done that cost $45,000. But the Tucker Library, Henniker, I think, that was $11,000. I don't know what they got for that. Candace probably could answer more questions.
So you're going to be pulling from that 123 that you have in your capital reserve in order to pay for.
Yes, and we put in 11,000 because we also know about the roof, and we don't know if it's feasible to do this feasibility study and the roof at the same time. Probably 5 years ago, the cost of the roof was 65. It's probably 75 by now, the way prices are
cost
going.
of-
The east side of the roof that has to be done.
Excellent.
So does it make sense to be requesting money into the capital reserve for like roof repair?
No, we already have, yes, that's what we're doing. If we can get 10,000 a year, we'll have 50,000 in the
Okay.
next 5 years. We have money in the capital reserve, which we'd like to use for the feasibility study.
So what you really want to do is put 10,000 a year away, like in the out years too.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We should make sure this reflects that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
No. that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming
Okay,
out.
thank you.
All of you.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to approve $11,000 to be entered capital reserve. What fund is this? Library, capital reserve fund for architectural feasibility study.
With the designation of,
With the definition of necessary?
Necessary.
Because of the roof.
Yeah, I mean, it's like to keep what they're doing.
Yeah.
May I ask how bad the leak is?
Well, when we looked today, it was leaking in 4 different spots.
I'm sorry?
It was leaking in 4 different spots when we looked today, and it had been leaking at the last storm, and it was only 1 spot, now we're up to 4, so I think it's only going to be more.
Okay, but is
So
it
you're
up
gonna have
in
to
one
pull from
room?
this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
Now.
Yeah, you're gonna, now, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah. And is it all in the same room?
As of right now, it's in the same space.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I understood. Okay.
It's not in a spot we really use it, it's like the staircase leading up to where the tower was.
Yeah,
But that is like near the front entrance and everything, so it's pretty.
yeah, no, water
could
damage
cause
is
more
good.
structural damage and some more water.
Right, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
once water gets into the building.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
There is.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bart,
Yes.
what else?
That's it. I think we've touched upon all the ones for this year. Now I'll just write the report to the town manager. I'll give him the numbers. Oh, we do have one more, school.
School, yes.
So,
They always do a second.
but that can happen within the next month or so. So I think what I would like from the group today is we can like find a date that works.
Okay.
That'd be great. Or we can do it offline and don't have to decide right now because I know Rich isn't here.
Oh, yeah, that would be helpful to have Rich.
Yeah, so maybe that discussion can happen, but I like the plan. I told Todd, too, school superintendent, that we're probably going to target October, more so than late
Yeah.
September, and he was fine with that.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that. So I think we'll just do that offline.
And I can tell you, like, so I've seen the school's proposal, and it is, like, I would call it a capital maintenance plan right now. It is just to maintain the buildings we have, like the replacement cycle, how much you put aside every year to, like, get to, like, the, and maintain, like, positive cash flow. Because there's work going on right now with the vision of a graduate, which is sort of like, what do we want the programs to look like in the school? Like, there's no, like, strategic investments in here. It's just the, like, to keep things as is.
As is.
Because the vision of the graduate really should drive where we want to strategically invest as a community in the schools.
Do one more thing too. So we are going to start the master plan process.
Yeah.
I was wondering if anyone in capital reserve would like to be part of that subcommittee. We don't have to make a decision right now, maybe in October, but maybe if we can't right now, make that decision.
If you could let people know what the obligation would be for
Yeah.
that.
So
like,
I
in addition.
kind of give like a brief how we envision it right now. We're gonna have a lot, like a subcommittee, but smaller groups broken off, just focus on different chapters.
Mhm.
So, right now we have 3 planning board members, 1 from Riverfront Advisory Committee and 1 from Conservation Commission. And the first chapter, right now we're scheduled to work on is the open space, so we get time, open space chapter. But the way we're, SRPC and myself envision is that, it'll be a larger, subcommittee, but it would be like 1 or 2 committee members per chapter. So probably 2.
Yeah.
Say 2 or 3 that focus on different chapters, so it's, be more constructive, kind of divide.
But there's gonna be like visioning sessions up front to help
Oh, that's gonna-
drive the
yeah.
like coherence of the chapter.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah. Yep, exactly. Anyways, maybe that's a decision we can make later on.
Yeah,
I'd
I
love
mean,
to
if Rich
have-
wants to be involved, like,
I would love to have someone on this committee, on the subcommittee, because we were looking to join to, how does
Yeah.
capital improvement committee, because you're gonna be working off that document.
Yep.
As you're making decisions, the committee itself, so it's very important to voice the concerns that you have been seeing as a committee and how you would like to see, this body evolve. So,
I can't think of a more important committee that's being put together by the masters.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I think we got a lot of great group of heads right here, and you guys are passionate about kind of transitioning into more of a planning committee than, you know, a budgeting committee, so it's a great opportunity to do that.
Finance director's not here either. And Craig, congratulations are in order?
Yes, thank you, baby boy.
Oh,
Healthy?
congratulations.
Yeah,
It's
thank
almost
you.
a team.
10 fingers, 10 toes?
Yeah, it's got
Everybody's good, healthy?
Everyone's good, and healthy, everything was a great process.
Mom's good?
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, when?
It was Thursday.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't believe you're here.
Yeah. Well, the problem was with planning board, I couldn't be heard or anything, or some technical excuses. I need to be here. It's gotta happen. I need to be heard. Yeah.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Go home to that child. I'll
Yeah.
take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh,
Oh, Sue?
we have to approve minutes?
I just wanted to let you know that we have not, we've postponed the June 5th minutes, which was just sort of taken off of all the future agendas after we
Oh, yeah,
canceled
that's
other
fine,
meetings.
yeah.
So the June 5th minutes are still not approved.
Okay.
Can we-
Let
We
you
can
know.
do that in
In
October.
the October one, can we just do all
Okay.
of them?
We're gonna do
Yeah,
all, we'll
we'll
have
do
them
all.
all
And we can
slated.
do all these.
Yeah.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you for keeping us straight.
Yeah, thanks, Sue.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, let's do it.
Thank you.
That's a great, but
Yeah,
I was wondering when
congratulations.
you said you were coming.